Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines this morning. China says it is not against India's entry into the nuclear suppliers group. Envoy statement ahead of NSG meet in Vienna next week. Samajwadi Party all set for Silver Jubilee celebrations. Mulayam Singh Yadav aims to project a united party and a united front as leaders from the JDU, RJD and RLD are set to share the state with UP's first family. A shot in the arm for Cyrus Mistry. Board of Directors of Tata Group's hospitality arm support his leadership and continuance as chairman of the company. Centre calls for stricter enforcement of anti-pollution measures to curb rising levels in Delhi. NGT summons secretaries of 4 states with detailed report on preventive measures. GST Council meet fails to reach consensus on dual control issues. States subject to non-availability of updated data on assesses of service tax, excise and VAT. Well, the centre has asked Delhi and its adjoining states' governments to enforce strictly the measures decided upon to curb pollution. After the meeting of the Union Environment Secretary with his counterparts from the 5 states, the centre said that the Pollution Control Board will visit 17 industries in NCR to check pollution caused by them. Here's a report.
The centre has called for stricter enforcement of anti-pollution measures in states around Delhi. It has said flawed implementation was hurting air quality in the capital.
कई तरह के स्टेप्स लिए गए हैं उनके द्वारा, किंतु कई एरियाज अभी भी हैं जिसमें कि बहुत कुछ करना बाकी है और एक तरह से जो एनफोर्समेंट होनी चाहिए थी उस पे विशेष ध्यान देना है। विशेष ध्यान इसलिए देना है क्योंकि एनफोर्समेंट मैकेनिज्म जो है वो अभी भी कमजोर पाया जा रहा है और राज्यों से अनुरोध किया गया है, उनसे कहा गया है कि आप एनफोर्समेंट को और स्ट्रिक्ट करें।
A meeting was held between the Union Environment Secretary and his counterparts from the 5 states of Delhi, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and Punjab. At the meeting, they discussed issues including crop burning, dust pollution, landfill sites, building construction and vehicular and industrial pollution.
CPCB तत्काल 17 जो सबसे अधिक पोल्यूटिंग इंडस्ट्री है एनसीआर रीजन में कि वो मापदंड के ऊपर ना जा रहे हों और इस पोल्यूशन को बढ़ा ना रहे हों।
The Delhi government continues to maintain crop burning as a major reason.
सबसे ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है कि जो पंजाब, हरियाणा और पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश में जो पराली को जलाया जा रहा है वो सबसे बड़ा कारण है। हम लोग उस कारण की तरफ ध्यान नहीं दे रहे हैं, हम लोग बाकी चीज़ों पे ध्यान दे रहे हैं बहुत ज़्यादा। जो आज हालात हैं दिल्ली के अंदर दिन के मुकाबले रात में 2 गुने से ज़्यादा पोल्यूशन है, कम से कम 2 गुना पोल्यूशन रात के समय में है। तो इस सिचुएशन के अंदर तो सोचने वाली बात है। हम भी सोच रहे थे, हमने पूछा था कि भाई क्या स्कूल बंद करना एक सोल्यूशन है, तो उनका एक व्यू था कि बिल्कुल भी कोई सोल्यूशन नजर नहीं आ रहा।
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has expressed strong displeasure at the steps taken by the Delhi Pollution Control Committee to deal with the alarming pollution levels in the national capital. He has directed to immediately explore the possibility of engaging an expert agency for remedial steps in tackling the situation. The CM held a cabinet meeting where DPCC officers made a presentation on the situation. The National Green Tribunal during its hearing came down heavily on the centre and the Delhi government for not taking steps to tackle the problem.
जो एनसीआर में जितने भी राज्य आते हैं, चारों राज्यों को डायरेक्शन इशू करें और उनके जो सेक्रेटरी एनवायरमेंट हैं उनको डायरेक्शन दी है कि वो पर्सनली अगली तारीख जो कि 8 तारीख है उसमें आएंगे, प्रेजेंट होंगे और ये बताएंगे कि इन्होंने पॉल्यूशन को कम करने के लिए क्या-क्या करा है।
The centre has, however, urged the NGT to reconsider a ban on diesel vehicles older than 10 years, saying the ban is unjustified. The NGT in July prohibited vehicles older than 10 years with immediate effect in New Delhi in a move to curb pollution.
जहां पर हमारा कहना ये था कि जो 10 साल के ऊपर की डीजल व्हीकल्स को बैन किया है वो नाजायज इसलिए है क्योंकि एक तो गैर कानूनी है, जो स्टैट्यूट है उसके खिलाफ है, और दूसरा जो सारा विश्व भर का जो एक्सपीरियंस है डीजल व्हीकल्स को बैन नहीं किया जाता, चाहे जापान हो, चाहे यूके हो, चाहे फ्रांस हो।
In view of the heavy smog, the worst in the capital, In 17 years, municipal corporations have ordered closure of about 1,700 schools today.
The pollution level is really bad. The last 1 week, things have gotten very, horrible. There is a stench in the air, and when you just step out of the house, the visibility level is very low.
The overall air quality in Delhi is oscillating between severe and very poor categories. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the GST Council meet on Friday remained indecisive. The state finance ministers are now slated to meet on November 20th to discuss pending issues. The GST Council will meet again on November 24th and 25th to sort out the dual control issue.
The GST Council failed to iron out differences on Friday over the issue of control over cesses under the Goods and Services Tax regime. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted that around 10 important issues were resolved, but pushed for greater clarity on the administration of taxes after informal deliberations between the state finance ministers.
Whatever option we have, we don't want to take it in a hurry because this has to be a well thought out solution. Because administratively, any mistake on this front could be chaotic.
Jaitley also said that draft proposals will be provided to all states and states will be given time to review the drafts. He also clarified that efforts are on to pass supporting GST legislations in winter session of Parliament beginning November 16th.
When in the month of August we had passed the Constitution Amendment, it looked too challenging because the time was very short. As of today, I am more confident than I was in August. Let me say this because bulk of the spade work has been done.
The issue of dual control is one of the key matters to be taken up by the GST Council now. According to an earlier proposal, states were to assess businesses with an annual turnover of 1.5 crore rupees, while both the centre and the states were to assess businesses with higher turnover. Meanwhile, a status quo was agreed upon for assessment of service tax assessees, with the powers continuing to stay with the centre till the state officials were trained to do so. However, some states have raised objections to these proposals for upholding their fiscal autonomy. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, China on Friday sought to dispel the view that it was against India's entry into the nuclear suppliers group. Speaking to reporters in Kolkata, Consul General of China in Kolkata, Zhuanwu Ma, said that the notion that China was against India's entry into the NSG was not right. He added that entry of any country into the nuclear suppliers group required certain procedures which are to be followed. Meanwhile, Turkey on Friday remained non-committal about backing India's bid for NSG membership, saying New Delhi should first build consensus in its favour in the 48-nation bloc. Turkey was one of the countries which at the last NSG plenary in Seoul in June had insisted on no exception to be made for India while examining its bid for membership of the elite group. Despite strong US support, China had blocked India's bid on the ground that it was not a signatory to the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. The important NSG meet takes place next week in Vienna.
We have shared interests that far outweigh our differences. Of course, we have differences, but we should look at the big picture, and we can deal with and handle the differences properly without allowing the differences to affect our cooperation and exchanges.
Well, there was calm along the line of control with Pakistan on the second day on Friday. No firing or shelling has been reported. While there has been no shelling or firing along the international border since November 1st, there has been no shelling since Thursday along the LOC. The preceding day saw the worst ever Pakistani shelling along the IB and the LOC, targeting civil population, killing 8 people, including 2 children and 4 women, and injuring 22 others. However, even as there was no firing or shelling along the frontier, the border dwellers refused to return to their homes because of the looming fears. Officials said that most of the border people are staying in camps and they do not want to return to their border homes in view of threat to their lives from Pakistani firing and shelling. Meanwhile, Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti pressed for urgent de-escalation of the situation on the border. She said that India and Pakistan should take immediate and effective measures to revive the process of comprehensive and composite dialogue. The Chief Minister said this while conducting an extensive tour of areas like Naushera, Poonch and Rajouri along the LOC affected by Pakistani shelling. She also expressed grave concern over the plight of the people living near the frontiers.
अस्पताल बनाइए, सड़कें बनाइए, दूध की नदियां बहाइए, जब अमन नहीं है तो क्या करें? स्कूल नहीं जा सकते, कुछ नहीं, बड़ा नुकसान है। और मुझे पूरी तरह से मालूम है कि जितना नुकसान हमारे यहाँ हम लोगों का है, शायद इससे बुरा हाल उस साइड पे हो।
Well, the Congress party on Friday upped the ante against the central government on the issue of OROP, while Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi met the ex-servicemen and criticized the NDA government for not implementing OROP. The youth wing activists staged a protest in the national capital. Here's more.
15 उद्योगपतियों को 1,10,000 करोड़ रुपए दिए गए हैं, मगर किसान को और हमारी सेना के लोगों को पैसा नहीं दिया जा रहा है। ना किसान की इज्जत हो रही है, ना हमारी सेना की एक्स सर्विसमैन की इज्जत हो रही है। हो क्या रहा है? हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री जी खड़े होते हैं और कहते हैं मैंने 1 रैंक 1 पेंशन कर दिया है। अगर आपने 1 रैंक 1 पेंशन कर दिया है तो हमारे एक्स सर्विसमैन जंतर मंतर में क्यों खड़े हुए हैं?
3 days after ex-serviceman Ram Kishan Grewal committed suicide in the national capital, the Congress remained steadfast in its attack on the NDA on the issue of OROP. Party Vice President accused the Prime Minister of not giving due respect to the retired soldiers. Former Defence Minister A.K. Antony also accused the NDA government of not being truthful on the issue of OROP.
This government gave false promises and they cheated the ex-servicemen. Rahulji's visit to the deceased family and his attempt to go to the hospital, this government prevented it without any sanction of law.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, however, defended the government on the issue.
मुझे लगता है कि जिन लोगों को 10 साल तो कांग्रेस के नेताओं को विशेष रूप से 10 साल तो कोई सहानुभूति थी नहीं जब वो सरकार में थे रिटायर्ड डिफेंस पर्सनल के साथ, 10 साल उन्होंने लागू नहीं किया। 24 अप्रैल को जाकर 2014 को चुनाव के दौरान जब आधा चुनाव हो चुका था एक कमेटी बना दी, तो आज उनकी जो सहानुभूति उभरी है वो केवल राजनीति से प्रेरित है। ये पहली सरकार है एनडीए की जिसने इस डिमांड को केवल स्वीकार ही नहीं किया, इसको लागू भी किया है और हजारों करोड़ रुपए का, यूपीए की तरह 500 करोड़ का बजट में प्रावधान नहीं, हजारों करोड़ रुपए का प्रावधान भी कर दिया है और उसकी पेमेंट भी लाखों एम्प्लॉइज को ऑलरेडी हो रही है।
Meanwhile, Indian Youth Congress activists staged a protest in the national capital, protesting against the police action in the past 2 days on the suicide of ex-serviceman Ram Kishan Grewal. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
There's a look at what is slated to take place during the course of the day in our segment The Day Ahead. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will meet her Sri Lankan counterpart Mangala Samaravira and Lankan Fisheries Minister Mahinda Amaravira today in New Delhi to discuss a possible solution to the lingering problem of detention of Indian fishermen by Sri Lanka for allegedly fishing in Sri Lankan waters. The fishermen associations of the two countries held talks recently. As part of the ongoing India-Bangladesh Defence Corporation, a joint military training exercise between the two countries, Sampriti 2016, will start in Dhaka today. The joint exercise, Sampriti 2016, will simulate a scenario where both nations are working together in a counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism environment under the UN Charter. Last year, India hosted Sampriti 2015 in West Bengal. Bharatiya Janata Party will kick off its assembly election campaign today from western Uttar Pradesh. BJP President Amit Shah will flag off the first Parivartan Yatra from Saharanpur. The Yatra will cover all 403 assembly constituencies in the state. Prime Minister Narendra Modi may address 6 public rallies during the Parivartan Yatra. Well, moving on now, it was a shot in the arm for ousted Tata Sons chairman Cyrus Mistry. The board of directors for the group's hospitality arm, Indian Hotels Company Limited, unanimously supported his leadership and continuance as chairman of the company. The independent directors of Indian Hotels Company Limited endorsed Mistry's leadership and expressed their unanimous full confidence in him at a meeting just before the board of the company that runs Taj Group of Hotels met. PTI is quoting sources as saying that other members of the board supported him later. The vote of confidence by the board of IHCL is a boost to Mistry. Ratan Tata-led interim management of Tata Sons is seeking to oust Mistry from his positions in the operating group firms, including IHCL and Tata Motors. But there was more drama at the meeting after Tata security personnel roughed up journalists and lensmen gathered outside Tata House, while the police say that they have registered a case against 6 security personnel for allegedly assaulting the photographers. Tatas have issued an apology. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Cassava is planted at a spacing of 90 centimeter apart. This mini-set material that we developed, we have given a smaller spacing or a closer spacing. Small-scale farmer who doesn't have a large acreage. This is an ideal way of cultivation, and most of the technologies that we develop is actually benefiting them.
Watch Eureka with Dr. James George, Director, ICAR Central Tuber Crops Research Institute, Thiruvananthapuram, only on Rajya Sabha television. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, President Pranab Mukherjee on Friday wrapped up his 3-day visit to Nepal, calling it very successful. In an apparent reference to the political crisis over the new constitution that has strained bilateral ties, the president compared Indo-Nepal ties to that of a family in which differences sometimes crop up, but said efforts are on to iron them out through talks. During the visit, he held discussions with several Nepalese leaders, opposition leaders and representatives of the Madheshi community. Here's more.
President Pranab Mukherjee on Friday returned to New Delhi after a 3-day state visit to Nepal. Mukherjee, the first Indian president to visit Nepal in 18 years, described his visit as very successful. President Mukherjee likened Indo-Nepal ties to that of a family in which differences sometimes crop up, but said the efforts are on to iron them through talks. An apparent reference to the political crisis over the new constitution that had strained bilateral ties.
As in our individual lives, in our day-to-day life, there may be some different approaches or different angularities, but it is always our efforts to iron it out and to resolve through discussions, explanations, understanding with each other as we deal in the case of family.
On the last day of his visit, President Mukherjee visited pilgrimage destination of Janakpur and offered prayers at the historic Janaki temple there. Calling Janakpur as the most significant focal point of the cultural and spiritual linkages between India and Nepal, Mukherjee promised to construct 2 dharamshalas there to facilitate pilgrims to visit the ancient city in Nepal bordering India. Janakpur is also considered the epicenter of protests by Madheshis.
और परिक्रमा पथ पर 2 धर्मशाला के निर्माण के सिद्धांत हमारी सरकार ने लिया। मुझे प्रसन्नता रही है ये घोषणा करने के लिए जो हम ये 2 धर्मशाला जरूर निर्माण करेंगे जिससे यात्रियों को सुविधा मिलेगा।
Mukherjee on Friday also met the ex-servicemen of Gorkha regiments in Pokhara. He lauded the people of Nepal for contributing towards India's security through their service in the Indian Army. Nearly 32,000 Gorkha soldiers serve in the Indian Army and around 1,26,000 ex-servicemen and their dependents draw pension in Nepal. Mukherjee enumerated a number of welfare schemes the Indian government runs for them.
भारत की सेवा के लिए हमारे सीमांत रक्षा करने के लिए काम किया। बहुत दृढ़ता से, साहसिकता से और बहुत डिसिप्लिन से उन्होंने सैनिक के रूप से काम किया था।
Highlights of Mukherjee's visit include a state banquet by President Vidya Devi Bhandari, a dinner by Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, a series of meetings with political figures both from the Treasury and opposition, as well as with the disgruntled Madheshi groups. The trip signalled a further improvement in ties that were hit by a 5-month economic blockade of border trade points with India during a protest against Nepal's new constitution. The President also communicated India's commitment to rehabilitation efforts being undertaken in Nepal following the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that rattled the country last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The ruling Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh is all geared up for the party's mega Silver Jubilee celebrations today, with the JDU, RJD, RLD leaders set to share the stage with Uttar Pradesh's first family. Elaborate security arrangements have been made by police to ensure security of VVIP guests and party workers. Here's a report.
It's a show of strength within Samajwadi Party after the open family spat between Akhilesh Yadav and his uncle Shivpal Yadav. The ruling party of Uttar Pradesh, Samajwadi Party, celebrates 25 years since its formation today. But power tussle within the party has cast its shadow on the Silver Jubilee celebrations of the party in Lucknow. Posters put up across the city clearly display the internal family dispute. Expelled ministers have also been asked not to attend the event.
कार्यकर्ता लोग खुद आ रहे हैं और नौजवान आ रहे हैं। नौजवान ही तो तैयारी में लगते हैं। नौजवान को उत्साह अलग होता है। नौजवान ज्यादा चला रहा है, पहले पहुंचता है, आगे बढ़ के रहता है। तो अगर नौजवान है कहीं तो समाजवादी पार्टी में है।
Party Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav has invited leaders of other political parties to attend the event but has not invited the Congress. Lalu Prasad Yadav, Sharad Yadav, Ajit Singh and HD Devegowda have been invited for the Silver Jubilee event.
सबसे पहले तो मैं ये कहूँगा कि एक इच्छा शक्ति होनी चाहिए, और जब हम इच्छा शक्ति की बात करते हैं तो विचारों की इच्छा शक्ति होती है, और विचार जब मजबूत होता है तो पार्टियां या व्यक्तियों की कोई अहमियत नहीं रहती।
मैं ये कह सकता हूँ कि इनका कोई सिल्वर जुबली, इनका कोई महागठबंधन, इनका कोई भी प्रयास अब समाजवादी पार्टी के जहाज को डूबने से बचा नहीं सकता है। 2017 भारतीय जनता पार्टी का है, 2017 सुशासन के लिए है, विकास के लिए है।
In a bid to portray a united front ahead of the 2017 state assembly elections, the feuding First Family had come together to flag off Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav's Rath Yatra on Thursday. Party patriarch Mulayam Singh Yadav and Shivpal, with whom the Chief Minister was locked in a bitter power struggle, extended him best wishes. But the cracks within the party were there for all to see. This is Panchanan Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, here's a look at what else is making news across the country in our segment Nationwide. BJP Chief Amit Shah on Friday said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the most bitterly criticized person post-independence. Speaking at the India Idea Conclave 2016 in Panaji, Amit Shah said that if criticism was targeted against the country, it cannot be called freedom of expression. The BJP chief alleged that the country got good governance after 68 years of independence when the Modi-led government came to power in the centre. Around 150 ducks were culled in Hisar district of Haryana on Friday to prevent spread of bird flu after samples of dead birds from a local resort tested positive for avian influenza. The centre has asked the Haryana government to take steps to control bird flu. Entry to the Bluebird tourist complex has been restricted temporarily. The CBI on Friday has conducted searches at 5 places in Bhopal in connection with the Vyapam scam. Searches were conducted at a private medical college and in the residence of 2 top officials of the college. The agency has recovered incriminating documents and materials including cash, jewellery and other valuable assets worth 2 crore rupees. Apollo Hospital on Friday said that Jayalalitha is well and it is up to her to decide when to be discharged. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister will reportedly be moved out of the critical care unit to a private room soon. The 68-year-old Chief Minister was admitted to Apollo Hospital on September 22nd with fever and dehydration. Moving on to some international news now. Federal officials have warned authorities in New York City, Texas and Virginia about an unspecific threat of attacks by Al-Qaeda terror outfit around Election Day. A range of U.S. officials from law enforcement, national security and intelligence agencies are watching for potential threats, chasing a tip about a possible terror plot and also trying to guard against cyber attacks that could sow confusion or doubt about the results. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which operates airports, tunnels and bridges around New York City, continues its high levels of patrol. The White House was, however, aware of the reported Al-Qaeda threat and mindful of increased risk of attacks during events such as Election Day. Well, moving on to news from Mosul now, where Iraqi special forces have stepped up attacks against Islamic State group that has held the northern city for the last 2 years. The government forces have battled their way into another eastern suburb of Mosul, breaking through IS defenses and reached the district of Al-Zara, which they say is now 90% under their control. Government and Kurdish forces began a US-backed offensive on the 17th of October to drive out the jihadists. They have already retaken dozens of villages and towns in the surrounding area. However, on Thursday, in a rare audio message, IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi told his fighters they must not retreat. The UN says there is growing evidence of IS atrocities in and around Mosul. It has already expressed concern for the estimated 1.5 million civilians living in the city amid reports of mass killings and people being rounded up for use as human shields.
We also continue to receive reports of mass killings, including one incident on Monday when ISIL reportedly killed 50 of its own militants in the Ghazlani military base in Mosul city for alleged desertion. There are also credible reports that 180 people were killed on Wednesday in Kokjeli town in eastern Mosul, and possibly up to another 200 people were killed in Mosul city.
Here's a roundup of the other international news in World Wrap. A 10-hour ceasefire by Russian and Syrian government forces in Aleppo has come to an end in what Russia described as a final chance for rebels to leave besieged areas. Rebels continued a counteroffensive aimed at breaking the siege, and Russia said 2 of its soldiers were wounded. Russia and Syria are now expected to resume attacks on the city's eastern side. The pro-Kurdish HDP party in Turkey has denounced the arrest of its leaders on Thursday night as an attempt by the government to eradicate democracy. The HDP said that the arrests were a dark day for the country as its supporters took to the streets in protest. HDP leaders are accused of spreading propaganda for militants fighting the Turkish state. However, HDP activists denied links to the PKK Kurdish rebel groups. Indonesian police used tear gas and water cannon to subdue protesters as thousands of hardline Muslims marched against Jakarta's governor. The governor, Basuki Tjahaja, a Christian, is the first ethnic Chinese to hold the governor's post in the capital of Indonesia. The demonstrators accuse him of having insulted Islam's holy book, the Quran, and want him to be prosecuted. The US says talks between Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro and the opposition are the last best effort to finding a peaceful solution to the country's political impasse. It comes after President Maduro rejected calls for an early election. US Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Tom Shannon said if the talks failed, it could lead to both sides putting people on the streets. Well, that's it on this edition of The Breakfast News. Have a good day.